of the month of Iyar. We are one Amud in to Maseches Yoma, and we are moving on to Amud Amud Beis of Maseches Yoma. We left off with, in the middle of a question yesterday, the question that we were entertaining and trying to figure out is with regards to this limit of which, when, and how we know that you need the Kohen to separate for 7 days before Yom Kippur. And we wanted to say that this was learned from a pasuk with regards to the paraduma. Just to review, the pasuk 5 lines up, last one on the line, Omri, on Beis Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Omri Yolav Tziva Tziva. We learn it from a Gzera Shava of Tziva Tziva between two psukim. Ksiv Hacha, the pasuk says there, with regards to the Yimei Miluim, Tziva Hashem la'asas, that Hashem commanded to do, Ksiv Hasam, and here, with regards to the Paraduma, the pasuk says, Ksiv Hasam zos chukas ha'torah asher Tziva Hashem levar. This is the chukas ha'torah that Hashem has commanded. Ma'alahalam para, afkan para. Just like there, it's talking about Paraduma, so to here it should be talking about Paraduma as well. Ma'akan Prisha, Avlalan Prisha. Just like, the Kohen is required to separate himself for 7 days, so too, is required to separate for 7 days. Fine. Ve'ima Tziva Diyama Kippurim. Maybe the Tziva means the whole thing is talking about Yom Kippur. It's not talking about Paraduma at all. So the Gemara says, this is the top of Beis Amud Beis, that they did as the pasuk says, as Moshe, that they did just as Hashem had commanded Moshe, meaning that that this is not talking about Paraduma, but this is simply talking about the Yimei Miluim and Yom Kippur. Says the Gemara, Danin Tziva delifnei Asiyah, mitziva delifnei Asiyah. There's a tziva that is said before doing something, and a tziva that said after doing something. And we would much prefer to compare a tziva, the word tziva, that is before doing the activity, from the tziva that's afterwards. That's the limit that the Gemara wants to say here. Dan in tziva de lifnei asiyah, mitziva de lifnei asiyah, ve'ein dan in tziva la'achar asiyah, mitziva de lifnei asiyah. We don't want to compare a tziva that is la'achar asiyah, which is that they did as Moshe had been commanded, meaning in the past tense, mitziv de lefnei asiyah, with regards to Yom Kippur, where the pasuk says that the lefnei asiyah, that the tziva is that you need to go ahead and do it. Says the Gemara, okay, fine. Ve'ema tziva de karbanos. Maybe the word tziva that we want to say with regards to the Yimei Miluim is really talking about not Yom Kippur, not Paraduma. Maybe that's all talking about. Maybe that tziva is all talking about the Karbanos. Dichsev b'yom tzavasos b'nei Yisrael, on the day that the Jewish people were commanded. That's the tziva. Says the Gemara, no, danim tziva de mitziva, ve'in danim tzavasos mitziva. Since when do we compare words that are not the same? You can't have a gzera shav of tziva tzavosa. That doesn't make sense. Says the Gemara, really? I'm pretty sure you can. Why should there be a difference? Vatana, the Bei Rabbi Yishmael, didn't the Tana from the house of Rabbi Yishmael teach us? This is how they would say in the house of Rabbi Yishmael. With regards to the pasuk, Veshav HaKohen Uva HaKohen, the Kohen returned and the Kohen came. Those are two very different words. And Zu Hi Shiva, Zu Hi Bia, returning and coming are the same thing, and we can make a Gzera Shava from two totally different words. Meaning, a Gzera Shava is not about a comparison of words, it's about a comparison of meanings, not literal language. It's thematic ideas. The Gzera Shava is not comparing words, it's comparing themes, ideas. Says the Gemara, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's only if there isn't another competing word that is exactly the same or more similar. Where there is another word that is contending for this Gzera Shava, that is similar. So, from the one that is closer, not just in meaning, but in actual verbiage, that's the one that we are going to learn from. Okay. Ad kan, we have explained what the word kasher tziva Hashem lechaper. So kasher tziva Hashem, so we said tziva is talking about paraduma. Lechaper must be talking about Yom Kippur. Lechaper elo ma'aseh Yom Kippurim. That's how the Brisa said, or at least the limit of the Gemara wants to say. So the Gemara, hold on a second. Who says that lechaper only means Yom Kippur? Ve'ema kapara de karbanos. Maybe you could say that the lechaper means that not that Yom Kippur needs 7 days of separation, but that karbanos do. All karbanos do. Says the Gemara, yeah, that's a good question. But Mia didn't hey kohen misrami the bayile prisha. Yeah, but who knows which kohen is going to be on duty for that particular karban that you should separate him? Says Rashi. What's the question here? So Rashi says, Miyadin, the first narrow line on Rashi on the left hand side. Miyadin hey misrami va'aloi al yidei pais hayu avdin. We're going to say later on in Daf Chav Beis that you couldn't just decide as a kohen, I want to be the kohen today. To be the kohen, to do any particular avodah or bring any particular korban, what is required is not simply that you are going to say, I'm doing the avodah, but they would do it by a lottery. So how would you ever possibly know which kohen is going to be doing it? So which one are you going to separate? That practical question makes the whole thing a difficult thing to say. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? Amri, we should say, take the whole group of Kohanim that are going to be on duty that day and separate them 7 days before. Meaning, you know who's going to be in the lottery. You don't know who's going to win, but you know who's going to be there. Says the Gemara, no. So the practical, the functional question doesn't rule out the fact that lechaper might mean every karban. So we have a textual inconsistency, a textual problem with it, which is dan and davar shekavua lezman, not textual, but thematic argument. Dan and davar shekavua lezman, midavar shekavua lezman. We should learn from something that is kavua lezman, that has a specific time. Midavar shekavua lezman, from a thing that has a specific time, meaning Yom Kippur has a specific time, and the Yimei Miluim for the Kohanim, the inauguration days of the Kohanim, they also had a specific time. As opposed to korbanos which are brought every day. That's not a specific time. You bring a korban tamid every single day. Says the Gemara, whoa, okay. You want to tell me that lechaper means that you have to separate somebody else 7 days before something that's kavua. So you want to say it's Yom Kippur. Who says Yom Kippur? Maybe it means Yom Tov. Says the Gemara, yeah, but fine. So you're right, but let's compare something that happens once in the year, meaning that the inauguration of the Kohanim happened once, meaning to something that happens once. It happened once that year, as did Yom Kippur happen once that year. That was the conversation with Moshe Rabbeinu, right? That that Yom Kippur should be that just like the inauguration of the Kohanim happened once. So too, the thing that's going to happen once, which is Yom Kippur, at least in that year, because the inauguration of the Kohanim isn't going to happen again, but the thing that happens once should be compared to something happening once, as opposed to the rest of the regalim, which happen 3 times a year. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen only once, it happens 3 times. Says the Gemara, okay, so then pick one yantiv that you're going to make it. One yantiv is going to be the yantiv that the kohen has to separate himself 7 days beforehand. Who says Yom Kippur? And if you say, I don't know which one of these 3 regalim it should be, if it's Chag HaMatzos, if it's Pesach, well, Pesach because the Torah said it first. Maybe that one should be it. Chag HaSukkos, maybe it's Chag HaSukkos. Because it's got lots of mitzvahs. These are both good contenders. Says the Gemara, yeah, it's true. So, Eladan Prisha Shiva Liyam Echad, Prisha Shiva Liyam Echad. Ve'in Dan Prisha Shiva Leshiva, Prisha Shiva Liyam Echad. Says the Gemara, well, we have another thing to concern ourselves with, which is we should separate 7 days for the 7 days of separation to prepare for a singular day, rather than comparing a 7-day separation to prepare for 7 days. Meaning Yom Kippur is 1 day, and that comes off this. according to this limud, 7 days of preparation, 1 day of Yom Kippur. The same as the Yemei Miluim, 7 days of preparation, and then Vayhi Bayom Hashmini, that's the 8th day. The 8th day is the day that the Kohanim were inaugurated. So it's a 7 plus 1 to a 7 plus 1, not a 7 plus 1 to a 7 plus 7. That doesn't work. Says the Gemara, maybe we should say Shmini Atzeres now makes the best argument, because that would be 7 days of preparation for a Shmini Atzeres, for the 8th day. Says the Gemara, no, it's not Shmini Atzeres. We should compare something that doesn't have Yom Tovs before, days of Kiddush before, to a thing that doesn't have days of Kiddush before. We're not going to compare something that's Yemei Chol, like the inauguration days, and then one very special day, Yom HaShmini, to 7 days of Yom Tov, and then the Shmini Atzeres. Says the Gemara, hold on a second, isn't it a great argument to make? If days of that don't have Kedusha need 7 days of separation beforehand, if you have Yom Tovs beforehand, like Kol Shekain, would it not be all the more so that you should have to have 7 days of preparation? Maybe it should be Yom Kippur, sure, and also Shmini Atzeres. Maybe you can make the argument for both. That's probably the correct way to read the Gemara. It says, no, that doesn't make sense, because the pasuk has another clause, which is hazeh. Pasuk says hazeh. What do you mean hazeh? Rashi says kasher asot bayom hazeh, as it was done on this day. As it was done on this day. This hazeh. What does that mean? Kazeh, just like this day. It's got to be a day like this day. What does it mean, a day like this day? It says Rashi, so you only need to separate out for something that is exactly like it, not something that has 7 days of Kedusha before. So the Kal V'chomer falls flat. It says Rav Ashi says, Mi'ika midi di'ika regel lo by prisha. Tafel didei by prisha. The Gemara wants to know, says Rashi, to explain this, Mi'ika midi di'ika regel lo by prisha. Would you find anything where the primary part of the Yom Tov does not need separation, and the tertiary part, the secondary part, the thing that follows on, would need prisha? Doesn't make sense. It cannot be that for Sukkot the Kohen doesn't need to be separated, but by Shmini Atzeres he does. Says the Gemara, and even according to the one that says Shmini Regel that Shmini Atzeres is its own Yom Tov. It's not that it's connected to Sukkot. It is Shmini Atzeres. It is its own Yom Tov. Hani Mili, this is only true le'inyan pazar kashav. Only for this thing called pazar kashav, which we will explain tomorrow. But le'inyan tashlumim derishon. But with regards to additional korbanos, that is a tashlum derishon. Dahatnan, because as we said in the Mishnah, mi shaloi chag b'yom tav rishon shechag chag v'holech kol harega kula. Anybody that didn't bring a korban on the first day, didn't bring his chagiga on the first day of Yom Tov, can bring it all of Sukkot, v'yom tov achron shel chag, as well as the last day of the chag, which means Shmini Atzeres. This is an important halacha l'maisa nafka mina, that if a person said in davening on Shmini Atzeres, they said Yom chag Sukkot hazeh, so there'd be yotzer on Shmini Atzeres. That's the chara how we pass, based on this Gemara, because it is still part of Sukkot with regards to the Chagiga. What exactly is Pazar Kashav? So please God, we will explain that tomorrow. This comes up in many places in Shas, talking about Shmini Atzeres. We will explain that, and also deal with the last remaining Yom Tov, which is up and coming, that the Gemara hasn't yet discussed, which is, what about Shavuos? Shavuos would be an amazing contender for this. And please God, to be continued, and I will see everybody tomorrow. Erev Shabbos, which is Pesach Sheni, and Hashem should bless us all to have a freilich and Pesach Sheni, and a wonderful opportunity for all of Klal Yisrael. Pesach Sheni is the Yom Tov of fresh starts and new beginnings. That's the avodah of Pesach Sheni. But as Hashem, we should be zeichet